What a week this has been. Valentine's Day, Ash Wednesday, a horrific shooting. It's certainly time to put our priorities in order so that we may find favor with the Lord. This season of Lent that we enter into is a season of conversion, when we look upon ourselves and take upon ourselves the responsibility of changing, of turning back to the Lord. Tuesday in New Orleans, they celebrated Mardi Gras, or known as Fat Tuesday. In St. Anthony's on Sunday, we celebrated Domingo Gordo, Fat Sunday, when we have malasadas for sale, that delicious Portuguese fried dough. And in Brazil, they celebrated Carnival. Luckily, we don't get Globo on our televisions because some of the images are really too much. At any rate, what does Carnival mean? Carnival means a putting away of meat, saying goodbye to meat, because in the olden days, when Lent approached, meat was given up. Of course, most of the people who would have given up the meat didn't have enough money to buy the meat, or even to buy fish to take care of themselves and their families, unless they lived on islands or near the coast. As I often tell my parishioners, my mother, when the laws changed, when we didn't have to have fish on Friday any longer, she still continued to prepare fish for us. And they were fish that were given to her by friends or family members who had gone fishing. And some of them had more than 1 million bones. Maybe not, but it seemed like that. And so one day I said to my mom, "Mom, we don't have to have fish on Friday anymore." She said, "Oh, but I love fish." So I just looked at her and to myself said, "But then it wasn't a sacrifice for you." But it was, because she sacrificed in so many other ways, as mothers often do. And part of the sacrifice was preparing the fish that was given, instead of buying meals or buying food, to prepare a different meal. Fasting is an important part of our practice, of our Lenten practice, and yet we don't fast as often or as much as we used to in the church. When I mentioned during my sermon on Wednesday that carnival meant saying goodbye to meat, a woman looked up and she nodded. She was probably in her 80s or 90s. She remembered those days when everything was given up. We talk about fasting in the terms of giving something up, don't we? How often did you hear someone ask you, "What are you giving up for Lent?" Instead of, "What are you fasting from for Lent?" Because giving up is just doing what pleases us, as Isaiah says, as Isaiah repeats the words of the Lord. It's for our own pleasure or lack thereof. It's not for God, oftentimes. It's for ourselves. What are you fasting from for Lent? Once a parishioner said to me, "Father, I'm giving up coffee for Lent." I said, "Is that a good idea?" He said, "Well, it really makes me miserable not to drink coffee." I said to him, "Well, for goodness sake, drink the coffee, because you're only going to make everyone else around you miserable by your being miserable, right?" And so we can't give things up or fast from things that are going to take away from our goodness or what we're called to be in the season of Lent. We are called to convert, to change. And so Isaiah, the Lord gives us what we need to do to fast during Lent. Maybe to give up impatience so that we can be nicer to people, especially behind the wheel. Just coming over, I'm trying to be more patient when I drive, and just coming from Cambridge to Watertown this morning, I had so many occasions of temptation. And I just said to myself, "Walter, it's Lent. Be good. Be better." That's what Lent is about, is being better. Changing to help someone else in their conversion. As we live a life of faith, as we live as Christians truly, as we do good to others, as we are kind to others, as we are generous with our food, with clothing, with our charity, we help others change because they see the change in us. That is what the Lord requires. It is what the Lord asks of us to change, to fast, so that we might convert ourselves. Lent is not just for 40 days. It must be a conversion that continues even into the Easter season, into ordinary time, into Christmas, into the rest of our lives, my brothers and sisters. Let us fast or choose something. It's still early enough. Choose something that will help you change, to be a better person, to be a better Christian, to be a better brother and sister, to be a better son or daughter of our loving Father, our loving God in heaven.